Calcast Volume 6. Calcast Volume 6. We in the house. This is your boy Calix Boxing here. Hit that sub button for nightly boxing videos, and thanks to all the new subscribers out there. Got to give y'all a round of applause. Yeah, man, shout out to y'all. Shout out to y'all. I'm excited about this one tonight. This is the 6th edition, and I'm excited about it because a lot going on in the boxing world, and I was itching to get back at it. I was in Pensacola over the weekend, and the only thing I missed about being back into the real world is doing these videos. So good to be back with y'all. Good to chop it up with y'all, and I will be getting to the comments soon. After I hit on these quick boxing news, this boxing news cycle, I'll be getting to the comments because a lot of good comments and a lot of good questions. So I'll be getting to those shortly in about 10-15 minutes. So bear with me. I'll be getting to those, and looking forward to that and chopping it up with y'all again. Speaking of Pensacola, Roy Jones is in the news, and it's extremely frustrating, man, because being a huge Roy Jones fan, being from down here in the Gulf Coast, the guy fought half his fights down here, and he's a franchise down here. So it's tough to see a guy who was on top of the world at one point continue to fight. And I had my hopes up after his last fight. He apparently tore something in his arm, and he was saying, you know, this might be it. This might be my last fight. But he's saying again, he came out today, gave an interview and said, I'm back. He gave an interview with TMZ Sports and said, I'm coming back in December or January to fight again. I feel good again. My arm is healed up. Let's do it. And I'm just thinking to myself, I remember watching a Joe Louis documentary on HBO, I believe, and Bill Cosby was being interviewed during the documentary, and he said he went to a Joe Louis fight well past Joe Louis's prime, when he was still fighting into his 40s and 50s, however long he fought, and just seeing him walk to the ring, knowing he was just doing it for the money, and just how sad he was as a fan, and how sad that Joe Louis looked walking to the ring as an old man and getting knocked out by a journeyman. It's just tough to watch. And it's the same thing with Roy Jones. It's tough to watch. And I just wish somebody in his corner, somebody on his team, would just say, hey, man, just wrap this up. Just wrap it. There are other ways to make money. All right, there are other ways to make money. Let's wrap this thing up. So I don't know. Roy Jones is still chasing that ghost, I suppose. It's tough to watch, because if he would have went out on top after winning that heavyweight title, hindsight is 20/20, but he could have went out as one of the greatest to ever do it. In his prime, he's one of the greatest to ever do it, but you can't just discount these past 13, 14 years and wipe it clean. That's part of it. So it's just tough to watch. Another tidbit in the news, Danny Jacobs' team is out saying that Danny Jacobs is contemplating fighting Gennady Golovkin late in 2016 or early 2017. If that's true, then props to him. But when I hear that, what I think is, it's exactly what I did. When I heard that, I just laughed. I don't believe it. However, there seems to be some legs to it, because just getting to the mind of Danny Jacobs and his team right now. Okay, they see that Gennady Golovkin is going to fight Canelo next fall. So he's roughly got, 2 or 3 fights before the Canelo fight. They're probably thinking after the Canelo fight, Triple G may move up to 168. He may say after the Canelo fight, if there isn't a rematch to the Canelo fight, if they don't fight multiple times, that his business at 160 is finished. He was just waiting at 160 for Canelo. He's going to move up, and we may lose out on our Triple G fight. If that's the case, there may be a point where we waited too long, and Triple G moves on to bigger and better things. He doesn't need us anymore. So they may be thinking we have to fight him at some point before that, if we're going to get a big money fight. Because, yes, Danny Jacobs with the PBC, they're overpaying fighters. He can get a couple million to fight bums like he's been doing. But if he really wants a big money fight, a fight that's worth a bunch of money, he's pretty much got to fight Triple G at 160, right? So they may be thinking we have to strike at some point we don't want to fight him, but maybe we have to do it before the Canelo fight. So there seems to be some legs to it. They're saying that the WBA is going to order Danny Jacobs to fight Golovkin. I've heard that from the WBA before, so I take that with a grain of salt. But we'll see. We'll see. I would love for the WBA to order that and say, "Hey, fight Triple G. Are you going to be stripped?" But once again, when I hear that, I don't believe it. Now, moving on to Fury. Tyson Fury versus Vladimir Klitschko. Tyson Fury, the baddest man on the planet, being that he is the man who beat the man, and he is the heavyweight champion of the world. So he's the baddest man on the planet right now, so to speak. They've finalized the fight. Once again, the rematch for October 29th. Now, first talking about the fight real quick, Klitschko is talking a big game. I just don't see, still talking about this, and the official prediction will be coming next month or later on this month. I still don't see Klitschko being able to, I think he's too robotic to deal with the Tyson Fury, who he's just an improviser in there. He can do multiple things. He can move around, good lateral movement, can put punches together, has some punching power. He just seems to be too fluid, while Klitschko is too robotic in the ring. And Klitschko has fought fluid fighters before, but the thing is, Fury is a big fluid fighter. All right, Klitschko has been able to overwhelm guys with his size in the past and lean on them and hug them to death and double jab and right hand behind it them to death in the past. He's not going to be able to do that with a 6'8", 6'9" guy who can move, who is fluid. And for Klitschko to be able to deal with him, he has to become more fluid himself, and he has to be able to improvise. He has to be able to adjust from the first fight. And I don't know if Klitschko has that in his temperament to be able to adjust and put himself in the line of fire in order to beat a Tyson Fury and to take that punishment and walk through it and fight fire with fire in this fight. I just don't see it. So I see the same result. However, there is that wild card that Tyson Fury just doesn't take this fight as seriously as he should, doesn't train as seriously as he should. His physique doesn't scream in shape right now. So we'll see if he doesn't come in shape. If he takes Klitschko lightly, which seems crazy, Klitschko could win the fight. But I just don't see that happen. I think he will. However, the one thing about this, and I had this article up, saying that Tyson Fury is going to have to face an anti-doping panel before Klitschko. This whole thing is, apparently he tested positive for a banned substance last February 15, was still able to fight this fight, and then wasn't suspended until mid this year. I don't understand how you can go that long without being suspended. This whole thing just I don't understand it. Am I the only one? And leave the comments, please, because I'm just confused by this whole thing. And he's going to have to face this panel before he fights. And I just don't see anything happening with this, because let's say they find something and they say, hey, you're not going to be able to fight Klitschko. Just imagine the backlash that's going to happen if that were to happen. I just don't see anything happening. I think this is a whole charade at this point. I think he's going to walk free from this. And this is all going to be about nothing. But I just don't understand how this happens. This is my whole problem with the whole independent drug testing thing, is it seems like anytime there's a positive test, it's still a little murky. Guys have to fail multiple times, and then once they fail, there always seems to be an excuse from the fighter on why they failed. You know, they didn't know they weren't supposed to take this thing, or there was some kind of specimen and something that they took that they didn't think was illegal, and everybody seems to forgive these fighters for it, and it just messes up good fights. This is all it seems to be doing. So I don't know. I'm just tired of the whole independent drug testing thing. I just wish they do get rid of drug testing altogether at this point. I think would be in an even playing field. And I think that needs to be brought up at least as an argument and should enter into the arena of ideas and arguments as, hey, let's drop this drug testing altogether. Right? More discussion on that in future videos. We'll see where we go with that. Miguel Cotto versus Lamont Peterson, possibly happening December 3rd. Now, for all you who know me, know this channel, I'm Cotto-tarded. I love Miguel Cotto. However, Lamont Peterson, come on, man. And I understand Miguel Cotto is coming off of a loss to Canelo. But he's taken, by the time this fight happens, it'll be a 13-month layoff. They're talking about December 3rd. Lamont Peterson hasn't fought over 144 at any point in his career. And now he's going to be fighting at, God knows, Miguel Cotto has become the catchweight king at this point. God knows what weight they're going to be fighting at. What are they going to be fighting at? 158.5, 157.2? I mean, what catchweight is Miguel Cotto going to come up with? And this is hard for me to say because I'm a Cotto fan. But what are they going to fight at? 156.35? I can't wait to see what catchweight Cotto comes up with for this. And he's going to make Lamont Peterson move up a ton of weight. And I'm sure they're going to put it on pay-per-view because Rock Nation paid Cotto so much money up front to where they're not going to be able to fit it in HBO's boxing budget. They're going to have to do this on pay-per-view. And who the hell is going to buy Cotto versus Lamont Peterson on pay-per-view? Who's going to buy that? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they fit this some kind of way. Maybe Cotto takes a pay cut. I doubt it. But where does this fit? How are they going to do this on pay-per-view? How are they going to pay these fighters? All right, so Cotto versus Peterson, they're saying they're going to do it in New York. And Cotto always does well at the live gate. It's one thing to go to a fight and then one thing to pay for it on pay-per-view. All right? You go to a fight, at least you enjoy with your friends. You know, you're in the atmosphere. It's a fun night out. So it's one thing to do live gate and then another thing to buy it on pay-per-view. I just don't see this doing any kind of pay-per-view numbers. I mean, it's an okay fight as long as it's on TV. Both fighters are well past what we thought we expected of them at some point. I don't know. But Cotto at this point in his career, I mean, I'd be fine with him hanging him up at this point. He's already accomplished what he needs to accomplish. My fear with Cotto is that he's going to take the Roy Jones route and continue to fight, and continue to fight, and continue to fight, where it's threadbare at that point. But I'd like to see Cotto hang him up at some point. And when you're fighting Lamont Peterson, a guy who hasn't fought over 144, and you're going to fight him in the 150s, probably north of 154. I don't know. Peterson, he looked terrible against Felix Diaz in his last fight. A lot of people thought he beat Danny Garcia. I thought he gave away the first 7 rounds. I thought he beat up Danny Garcia, and there was no doubt that he was the better fighter. After the fight, I thought, you know, I thought Danny Garcia won the fight on the scorecards because of 10-point must system, and Lamont Peterson gave away the first 7 rounds. But at the same time, I thought Lamont Peterson was the better fighter. After the fight, I was like, Lamont Peterson is better than Danny Garcia. I thought Lamont Peterson gave away that fight, gave it away with those first 7 rounds, how he fought. Bad strategy, and he just beat the hell out of Garcia in those last 5 rounds. It's a shame he didn't step on the gas quicker. But a lot of people felt Lamont Peterson won that fight, and you can understand why. But he looked terrible against Diaz, and he hasn't fought since last October. So the fact that they're bringing out Peterson for Cotto, man, I just think I thought they could have done something better. You know, Cotto can still be in good fights at middleweight. Still, I mean, I thought that they could even rekindle this Cotto versus Canelo thing. I mean, Canelo doesn't have anything better going on right now since he's ducking Triple G. And it looks like Billy Joe Saunders doesn't want to fight anybody. So I thought at least they could rekindle the Cotto versus Canelo, and enough people would be interested in that. I thought the first fight didn't live up to the expectations, but still a good 2-way fight, close fight. I'd have been down for a rematch at least. But the fact that Cotto versus Peterson, I mean, it just adds to the 2016 being the year of disappointment. I mean, don't like the fight at all, and the fact that it's going to be on pay-per-view, Not liking that at all. Not liking it at all. Let me get to an article, Andre Ward, before I get to the comments, and one last story after that about Andre Berto. Speaking of Danny Garcia, Andre Ward doesn't know why he doesn't get credit he deserves. And I wish I had the sad violin to play for this. Andre Ward can't quite pinpoint why his critics haven't given him the full credit he believes he deserves. The undefeated former super middleweight champion admits, though, that he spends a lot less time these days worrying about what they think of him, watching boxing predecessors experience, blah, 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 blah. Quote, boxing history, Ward says, some guys get more credit than maybe they should get. He's speaking of Kovalev. I know, and he's probably speaking of Triple G as well. Certain guys where, in my opinion, it's obvious, like, he's the man. And people are like, well, he didn't. I don't know. That's a question for those individuals. But again, as you grow and mature, it's not about that. I'm secure in who I am as a fighter. I'm secure in who I am as a man. And going through the lawsuit period, it's funny. It's always funny. Andre Ward talk about the lawsuit period as if it's just something that happened to him. He was just going about his business, and then all of a sudden this whole lawsuit period just happened to him. Like he didn't sign a contract that he didn't like. Like, dude, you signed the contract. I've signed bad contracts in my life. It is what it is. You got to deal with it. And I'm not going to pretend to know what happened in the lawsuit. All I know is he was losing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit in the courtroom. So obviously he was doing something wrong. But this whole lawsuit period, like, it's just something that fell out of the sky and just happened to him. Seeing some of the things that were written that I felt were maybe you get to a point where you don't need outside validation. Now, remember those two things. Remember what he said above. He's come to terms with whatever skeptics think. He's not as worried about it. You get to a point where you don't need outside validation. Okay, now let's get to the next paragraph. Ward went on to make clear that, unlike some contemporaries claim, he does care what's written and said about him. Well, do you or don't you? Do you care or do you not care? That's among the reasons Ward says that beating Kovalev is so important and that's a good thing. That's a good thing that he wants to get at Kovalev to prove people wrong. That's a beautiful thing that shows competition. I just wish he would do it more consistently. I just wish he would do this on a regular basis. And hopefully this is the beginning of something good for Ward. If he were to beat Kovalev, I hope he stays consistent with it after that. But it's a tough ask for him to beat Kovalev. I saw that he's favored in the fight. I still think Kovalev's going to win the fight, but it's a good start for Ward to get back on the right track. But he's got to let this go, man. He's got to stop doing this thing where he goes in the media and he seems like he's feeling sorry for himself, and he's wondering why people are so down. Dude, you haven't fought anybody in 4 years. That's why people are so. And if you weren't so super talented, people would forgive it. Look at Danny Garcia, dude. Like, it seems like I'm the only one calling out Danny Garcia for fighting bums or average fighters. And the reason why is probably a lot of people don't see much in Danny Garcia, but a lot of people see a lot in Andre Ward. I'm one of them. Super talented. And that's why we want you to step up and fight guys. Your trajectory in 2012 was, it was going up. And then Andre Ward goes on, it's not like you don't care about it. I'm human. I appreciate things that are written positive about me, blah, 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 da, 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 da. Not much else after that. I just hope that, and just let it go and just stick to the boxing. About that. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about before I get to these comments, Cotto is frustrated with Danny Garcia dragging his feet in negotiations. This fight was supposed to be October 15th. For people who don't know, it was supposed to be mid-October. Danny Garcia is already in training camp. He's already training for this fight, and from what I heard, Berto was as well. But they're now dragging in negotiations. this fight still isn't signed. Danny Garcia has been on Twitter for like 2 months saying that just wait, it's about to come. It's about to come. We're about to announce a fight, and no fight announced. And it's already bad enough he's going to fight Andre Berto. If you're going to fight Andre Berto, get it over with. Let's go. Let's get it moving. All right, this already isn't a good fight. I mean, it might end up being an entertaining fight because Danny Garcia not a good. I mean, he's a flawed fighter. Berto a flawed fighter. So flawed fighters often make for entertaining fights. But they got to get on with it. I mean, stop dragging your feet. This isn't Pacquiao versus Mayweather. This isn't Ward versus Kovalev. I mean, you're two average fighters. Get in the ring and do it. Do it. But Andre Berto says he's going to move on. And they mentioned that there was another name in there. I don't even remember who. That Danny Garcia was supposed to fight, and he's another guy not in the top 10, of course. So they don't do anything by next week, he's going to move on. So Danny Garcia still being Danny Garcia. All right, let's get on to the comments. Going to get with these comments and get back to y'all on these with my answers. Chubbs Tubby. My Sergey Kovalev is Andre Ward's penance video. I hope the uploader of this video does penance for posting this 14-minute, 27-second waste of time. I honestly found nothing thought-provoking, mentally stimulating, or interesting about this video, at least up until 7:40 when I stopped listening. Well, at least thank you for listening to those 7:40. I appreciate you listening to half that video. Marlonius 76, Kovalev been beating the shit out of people. The thought of him getting broke down seems unrealistic. I hope Ward fights Kovalev like he fought Kessler. Interesting. Yeah, true about Kovalev. The thought of him being broken down does seem unrealistic. That's true. That is true. Now, Ward fighting Kovalev like he fought Kessler. Maybe the right thing to do, maybe the right thing to try to smother Kovalev instead of trying to use lateral movement, because Kovalev can certainly cut off the ring. And I don't know if it's the best idea to fight off your back foot against Kovalev. Maybe it's better to fight like you fought against Kessler and back him down, smother him. Kovalev and Kessler don't have the same temperament, and Kovalev a much more physical fighter than Kessler. And it's interesting to say that, because when I watch Kessler versus Calzaghe, for instance, Kessler in the middle of rounds in this corner, he looked like a deer in headlights, but at the same time he'd come out there and he'd answer Calzaghe every round, and that was a fun fight to watch, where Kessler would step up to Calzaghe's. They would each match each other's gears, and then Calzaghe would just have one more gear. But Kessler would at least try to match those gears, and he was in the devil's den, and he was in with the guy who can overwhelm you, but he still he would answer him. But against Ward, when he went into the Lions Den, when he went in there with a physical guy, he didn't answer him. Kessler just got beat up in that fight. He did look like a deer in the headlights, and he got roughed up. The problem with that is I was reading an interview that Kovalev did today, and Kovalev said, if you try to clinch me, I'm going to break your hands. Like, Kovalev is not just going to sit there and let himself get rough tactic to death. That tactical clinching is not going to work against him. So obviously Ward is the favorite in this fight, slight favorite. So he's a versatile fighter. People think he can do many different things, show many different looks against Kovalev, and fighting like he fought against Kessler may be one thing, but that's not going to work for 12 rounds against Kovalev. He's going to have to do many different things throughout 12 rounds, show him many different looks to win on decision. He's not going to be able to go in there and rough up Kovalev like he did Kessler. He's not going to be able to go in there and use tactical headbutts, use tactical elbows, tactical clinching. Not going to be able to do that against Kessler. And that's one thing Andre Ward's great at. And we haven't had and dude, if you can get away with it, do it. Beautiful. It's raping the Marcus of Queensberry rules, but do it. Bernard Hopkins did it for years. Vladimir Klitschko did it for years. The problem was when Vladimir Klitschko finally had a referee who enforced the Marcus Queensberry rules when he fought Brian Jennings, you saw a much different Klitschko. Looked vulnerable. You saw a Klitschko who looked flawed. You saw a Klitschko who looked confused. And if Andre Ward had the same referee, you probably have somewhat the same thing. But the problem is there are very few referees like that out there. And if you can get away with it, do it. And Andre Ward is great at doing that. And Andre Ward is a very versatile fighter. So I don't know. I don't know if he can just go out there and fight like he did against Kessler and win going away on decision. He's going to have to show many different looks. And that's one of them, but he's going to show many different looks to beat Kovalev. But he is a slight favorite, so we'll see. Shaya Bikel, Calix, you cracked me up with this pound for pound thing. For someone who doesn't really understand the big deal about pound for pound, you sure have strong opinions about what a pound for pound is. It's about pound for pound because it doesn't make much sense to me, and I'll go on about that in a minute. Let me read the rest of the comment. LOL, don't you think you should at least give your pound for pound list and why before saying who isn't a pound for pound king? And I understand what you're getting at. How can I criticize pound for pound if I don't somewhat know the concept of pound for pound? Look, I've thought about this. And my main issue with pound for pound but is the name. When I envision pound for pound, I envision if Tyson Fury and Rigo, Guillermo Rigondeaux are the same size, who would win? Because Tyson Fury, if he's shrunk, obviously he'd be a faster fighter, not as much punching power. If Rigo got bigger, obviously wouldn't be as fast. So they'd be two different fighters. So it's impossible to say. That's my issue with pound for pound. If we called it a best fighter list, to a little bit, I understand it, but I do the attraction to it. I do understand it. I understand that a lot of people I understand it as a great thing to talk about, a fun thing to talk about. Look, I'm a follower of other sports, so I enjoy at the workplace talking about who's the greatest quarterback of all time, who is the greatest shooting guard of all time, who is the greatest baseball player of all time. I enjoy doing that, and I understand that's subjective as well. So I get it. Point with it is it's mythical, so it only exists in your head. Is what I'm saying. It's just something we do as boxing fans. But outside of boxing, with casual fans, I don't think it has really any impact. I don't see much of an impact with it. Like, example, if pound for pound was this real and glorious, impactful thing, would Floyd Mayweather have been fighting in ballrooms in front of comped spectators when he was pound for pound king before he fought De La Hoya, before he fought Arturo Gatti? If pound for pound came with such an impact and glory, would Floyd have been the B-side against Arturo Gatti, a guy who wouldn't even sniff the pound for pound list? Would he have been the B-side and only get 20% of the proceeds fighting Oscar De La Hoya when Oscar De La Hoya was well past his prime? And you can argue Oscar De La Hoya was never the pound for pound king. I don't know if it's this impactful thing that boxing fans like to make it out to be, is what I'm saying. And you can give multiple examples of Bernard Hopkins when he was pound for pound king. I mean, he had to fight guys like De La Hoya and Trinidad to get his due when he was pound for pound king. So, I don't know if that title holds the weight that people think it does. And probably because it's a subjective thing. And my problem with pound for pound king is you don't seem to have to defend it. Like, you only have to fight once a year to keep your pound for pound ranking against average opposition. As far as Andre Ward goes, he's fighting for the pound for pound title in November, and he hasn't fought anybody of note in 4 years. I guess being a follower of other sports, like if you're the NFL champion, you win it in February, you have to start defending it again in September. Like there's a little period there before you have to defend it. Basketball, if you win the NBA championship, you win it in June, and you have to start defending it again in October. Like there's little off time. And my problem with pound for pound king is, and how boxing fans seem to perceive it, is you can go 4 years without having defended, and then all of a sudden pop up again, and you win a fight against a great fighter, and you're pound for pound king. Like, doesn't make much sense to me. I understand it, and it's a fun thing to talk about, but I guess my big issue with it may just be semantics, is the title. I would rather it be called Best Fighter List, and it may be picky, I don't know, but pound for pound, that whole concept, just when I think of it, I just think of shrink this fighter down, bulk this fighter up. If they were the same size, who would win? And I think that's a very flawed way of thinking, subjective. And I think pound for pound is so subjective that it's impossible for it to hold a lot of weight. That's my big issue with it, but still a fun thing to talk about. And I still get it. It is what it is with that. To say about that, but I get your question. D-Style Boxing, let's discuss this. Calix, let me know when. And D-Style, me and him have been messaging back on setting up a date this week on here for him to come and co-host the podcast. So hopefully he'll be on here and we'll be able to chop it up. We haven't chopped it up in like almost 2 years, so that's well overdue. So hopefully that'll happen sometime this week, and we'll get at it. Let's see what else we got here. Fade the Trade says, what about when GGG hits Brook on top of the head with his patented shovel hook? Leonard took Hitman Hearn shots, and Hagler was already on a decline and still won one round on my card. I don't understand. Like, are you saying that? I don't really understand that sentence, but GGG is in his prime best ability, and Brook is nothing like Hagler was. This fight is a joke. Brook's fight posture is made for Triple G. What is Brook going to do with his malevolent natural force coming at him? Brook can. Basically, he's saying that Brook has no chance, and can't say I disagree with that. Now, before I go further, and I'm glad he brought this up, and he also says, remember Tyson versus Spinks, GGG in 5. My at a tough point with this fight, because I don't like the fight. I don't like that Golovkin is fighting a 147-pounder. Yes, Kell Brook is looking in shape, looking like he's filling out 160 nicely, but he's only fought welterweights. He's only been hit by welterweights. He's only hit welterweights. He's got something coming to him when he fights at 160. I get that Triple G doesn't have too many options at 160. All that, but I still don't like the fight. My issue with this is I want to reward Kell Brook for moving up and fighting Triple G. So as a fan, I'm hit with that. Okay, do I support the fight because I like Kell Brook taking this chance, or do I not support this fight because I think it's a crap fight and I don't like what Gennady Golovkin is doing here? I understand what Gennady Golovkin is doing here. It's a genius business move. Genius. All right, he's going to fight a guy who is wildly popular in the UK, 147-pounder, much smaller than him, a guy who he should beat down easily. Low risk, high reward fight, going to get paid handsomely for it, going to introduce himself into the UK market. Beautiful business move, but I don't like top middleweight fighting a guy at welterweight who hasn't proven himself at welterweight yet, in my estimation anyway. Don't like that, but I want to reward Kell Brook. So I'm set with the decision, okay, do I reward Kell Brook by watching the fight, by supporting the fight, or do I just not? And there's also the dynamic, you want to watch a shark attack. I was reading an article earlier, and at the bottom they have those promotional articles, and one of them was the top 20 shark attacks, or most shocking shark attacks underneath. And I clicked on it because I like watching shark attacks. Gennady Golovkin is a shark, and no matter who he fights, you want to watch it. You want to watch it. So even when you don't support here. I don't think he wins anything by beating Kell Brook. It does nothing for his career. I'm sorry, it doesn't. But at the same time, I want to watch it. I want to watch a shark attack. I want to watch a pit bull maul, I don't know, some helpless animal, or a lion attack a gazelle. That's what I want to watch. So there's that whole shark attack thing as well, and watching the shark prey on its victim. And so there's that whole dynamic too. So I'll probably end up watching it. Got to be honest. Maybe that makes me a hypocrite. I don't know, because I've railed against this fight, but it is what it is. But there is that part of me too where long term, I know Gennady Golovkin winning this fight and continuing to move on is what's best for boxing. Gennady Golovkin continuing with his knockouts and activity, and that's what boxing needs right now, knockouts and activity. We need guys fighting 3 or 4 times a year and just knocking guys out. I know Gennady Golovkin continuing on that track is what's best for boxing. However, short term, I want Kell Brook to be rewarded for for fighting this fight. So there is that part of me that's going to be cheering for Kell Brook on Saturday. There is that part of me who wants him to win in his hometown and win this fight. Once again, I don't know what that makes me, but it is what it is. D-Style says, Calix, a lot of these dudes that had Kovalev winning packed their stuff and got out of Dodge already. I'm assuming he's saying had Kovalev winning before the fight was signed are now getting out of Dodge. I don't know what guys he's talking about, and he'll probably end up clarifying that when he comes on. So I can't comment on that, because I don't know what he's talking about, but that's certainly not me. And like I said, just to clear this up again, if Ward beats Kovalev, it's a great win. If Kovalev beats Ward, it's a great win. But I need to see Ward continue on that track of fighting top opposition and beating top opposition. He's got to get back to Ward of 2009 to 2012. And I don't care if he continues to fight in California. I don't care if he continues to leverage himself into fighting in his hometown and getting good money and getting the referee. I don't, as long as he fights top competition, that's what I want. And he's got to continue on that track even after this fight, even if it's a rematch, even if it's Adonis Stevenson after that, whoever it ends up being, got to fight top competition. And I'm glad he's back on that track at least. So I'm definitely not ducking that, and we'll talk about that when he gets on here. I'm picking Kovalev to win the fight. He's picking Ward to win the fight. Ward's a slight favorite, but I think Kovalev's going to win the fight. He also goes on to say, well, according to some dudes on here, all of a sudden Kovalev has done in his career is beating 50-year-old Hopkins. That's certainly not true, and I've not said that. He beat Hopkins, he beat Pascal, he beat other guys. So Pascal twice, actually, and looked great doing it. Although he faced some adversity in the first Pascal fight. So I don't know. I don't know how to respond to that. But Kovalev has some really good wins. So you say Ward is doing what he's supposed to do, which I agree with. However, you don't seem to hold GGG to the same standard as a guy who wouldn't move up and now a fighting career welterweight thought you weren't biased. This is Dark Heart 68. Said in the past month or two that I don't know how many times you've seen my face turning blue at this point. I don't like the fight. I've said it a million times now. I don't like it. I don't like Triple G fighting Kell Brook. I don't like it. It does nothing for his career. Nothing. It's a wasted fight. Business-wise, it's not. Business-wise, I understand it's a great move. Like I said, I just mentioned that 2 minutes ago. But competition-wise, sport-wise, it does nothing for his career. Nothing. It's a wasted fight. Does nothing for his legacy. In my estimation, it's a crap move. He said he'd fight anybody from 154 to 168. He didn't mention 147. You're fighting a guy 2 weight classes lower than you. I don't know how many times I have to say it. I'm holding him to the same standard. Triple G fighting Kell Brook is not fight. I'm saying it again. I'm going to watch it for the reasons I just mentioned. Just for the same reasons I've watched Andre Ward fight a lot of these crap fights. It is what it is. I'm a boxing fan. I complain about stuff. I probably end up watching it. Does it make me a hypocrite? Yes, probably so. But I don't like the fight. 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 I don't like Triple G fighting Kell Brook. Don't like it. I don't like the fight. Don't like the fight. All right. Once again, I don't like Triple G versus Kell Brook. Don't like it. Aviata Toma. Kovalev is most deserving of number one due to recent activity. Ward was number two. Floyd number one prior to inactivity. Both have wins against pound for pound ranked opponents, champions. No other fighter besides Maypac has a win against pound for pound opponent. Off the top of my head, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's your pound for pound. I mean, it's subjective. That's your pound for pound list. I don't know what to say about it. That if that's true for you, it's true for you. Is that objectively true? I don't know. Probably not. But subjectively for you, that's true. It's true. Whether Kovalev's number one, I don't know. Ward was number two prior to inactivity. Maybe you might be right. You might be right. I wouldn't have put Ward ahead of Pacquiao probably in a best fighter list. I don't know. I don't know. Aviata Toma, again, I hear a lot of videos now discrediting Kovalev Ward when before the fight was signed, the dialogue was a lot different. That's the same thing D-Style said. So apparently y'all have been seeing videos out there, and hopefully this isn't criticism to my video, because once again, I didn't say that Kovalev, Ward beating Kovalev doesn't do anything for Ward's career. I think it does. I think it's a great win. I'm still picking Kovalev to win the fight. I haven't changed for that. I'm still standing here saying Kovalev wins the fight. I think Kovalev beats Ward. I think Kovalev is a better fighter. However, if Ward wins, I'll give him props. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here. I'll give Ward props for winning the fight. I think it'll be a great win for Ward. However, I hope he continues to do it after that. I hope he doesn't go on another 4-year layoff. I hope he doesn't sue Rock Nation for 4 years. But as far as the videos you've been seeing discrediting, I'm not I love Kovalev versus Ward. That's not me. You know, I don't know. Whatever videos you and D-Style have been seeing, I don't know. I haven't seen them. I'm not subscribed to a million boxing channels, so I don't know. I don't know what else is out there. So I'm not sure. Where's your stance on other fighters who haven't taken up any step up in competition? And this is Aviata Toma again. My stance on that is the same stance as Andre Ward. I love Canelo as a fighter. I've been big on Canelo. I've been big on who else? Miguel Cotto. I've been big on Triple G. And I'll say it again. I don't like Triple G versus Kell Brook. Don't like it. Does nothing for his career. Let me say it again. I don't like Triple G versus Kell Brook. Let me say it again. I don't like Triple G versus Kell Brook. I feel like I'm in Beetlejuice right now where I have to say everything 3 times. I've been big on Canelo. I liked when he fought Trout, Lara, Mayweather in 3 out of 4 fights when everybody was saying lateral movement is his poison. He doesn't like lateral movement. He can't fight lateral movement. And he fought 3 guys with lateral movement, beating 2 of them in a 4-fight stance. I loved when he did that. However, fighting Amir Khan, no. Hated the fight. I was very vocal on here about the fight. I was getting a lot of criticism on that. I said there's no way in hell Khan wins that fight. All right? I was very vocal. This fight does nothing for Canelo's career. I was very vocal. This fight, only Khan can gain something. Khan cannot lose anything. Very vocal about that. Canelo cannot gain anything from this fight. He can only lose. This is a lose-lose or win-lose. I don't know what you call it, but Canelo could not gain anything from Khan in that fight, and I still stand by that. And Canelo fighting Liam, whatever his name is, no, it's a terrible fight. And Canelo talking about fighting the winner of Monroe Jr. and Gabe Rosado, no, terrible, terrible. Cotto fighting Lamont Peterson, a guy who hasn't fought over 144, and he's probably going to fight him at a catch weight of 157.6 or whatever. No, terrible. I don't like it. I mean, it is what it's different for Cotto because he's well past his. It is what it is at this point with him. Um, but no, no, I'm not watching that on pay per view. No, no. Very vocal about Danny Garcia fighting cherry picking. I've called out numerous guys on here about cherry picking, not stepping up. It's not just Andre Ward, and I'm guessing that this is what this is about because it's Sergey Kovalev versus Andre Ward video where this comment comes from. Um, love him, man. Step up, fight the best fights out there, and I'll be a fan. Like I always say, I didn't roll out of bed liking certain fighters. I like them for reasons because they fought tough competition. There was a time and there was a time when Cotto fought tough competition, and even as far as last year when he fought Canelo, um, he fought Sergio Martinez when everybody said he was going to get destroyed by Sergio Martinez. People like to do revisionist history when it comes to that, but nobody was picking Cotto to beat Sergio Martinez. Nobody. So he was stepping up. He fought Mayweather. He fought Pacquiao. He fought Clottey. He fought all these guys. Um, but right now, he's not. And I'll call him out on that. Al Colombo, I love your commentary. You're right on point, but I do want to offer one correction. Leonard did not fight at 168 before Hagler. He fought at 148 and 154 and won titles in those weight classes before then. And Leonard won light heavyweight Hagler. And yeah, they created that whole 168 for Leonard basically, but I'm still not sure about that. I have to go look at BoxRec because I don't remember. I said in the video I thought and leave the comments below, but I thought that Leonard fought Lalonde before he fought Hagler at 168. Lalonde at 168 before he fought Hagler, but he might have fought Lalonde after Hagler. I'm not sure. Needless to say, matter much in the big scheme of things, but Brook never fought professionally at 154. On top of that, Hagler was slightly past his prime. GG is in his prime. So basically saying, and he goes on, I agree with you. I can't see Brook winning. Wouldn't it be cool if Brook proved us both wrong and shocks the world? Yeah. Yeah. I love shocking victories. I love Tarver beating Roy Jones, even though I was a Roy Jones fan. I love upsets, man. I love upsets. It's why I'm a big fan of March Madness. And I'm a Duke fan, but I always cheer against Duke to lose against the Cinderellas. Golovkin fan, I still hate this fight, but I'd love for Kell Brook to prove me wrong and beat Golovkin. I love shocking victories. Love it. So, yeah, there's a part of me who is cheering for Kell Brook to shock the world and prove me wrong on this. And I'll be the first one to come on here and say I was wrong. That Brook is better than I thought. Brook is much better. If he beats Golovkin, he's much better than I thought. Goodness gracious. But yeah, basically what you're getting at is there's not much of a similarity between Triple G and Kell Brook. Triple G is in his prime. Hagler wasn't in his prime when he fought Leonard. Leonard was a much better fighter, so it was an even fight. This is an even fight. So yeah, I think you're right on all that. Christian Thomas, somehow Ward is the favorite though. And Ward is going to win and come the day after you're going to have 1,000,001 excuses, but you seem to always pick the white Russian over the American, and we're wrong on all of those. LOL. Anybody name a specific example of me picking a white Russian over an American? Because I can't think of any. How often has white Russian fought an American anyway? I mean, how often does that happen? And when did I pick a white Russian over an American? And do I have to explain this again? Like, look, dude, I'm many different races, like, and I don't identify with any of them. So picking a white guy over, I'm assuming you're saying I'm picking a white guy over a black guy. I could care less about that. And anybody who knows me knows I'm nationalistic over anything. Like, I'm pro-America. I love America. I love my country. And there's no way in hell I would pick a Russian over an American because I like the Russia over America. Like, what the hell? You can't watch my channel at all to come to that conclusion. No. But I do in this instance think that the white Russian is better than the American in this instance. I think he's going to win the fight. But if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to come on here in the post-fight video showing transparency, saying I picked Kovalev and I was dead wrong. And Ward had a great victory. If Ward beats Kovalev, I'll say it again, Ward, that's a great victory for Ward. Period. Period. I want to see him keep doing that after that. But if he beats Kovalev, it's another good victory for him. The first great victory in 4 years for him, but it's another great victory for him. Yes. Yes, I won't have 1,000,001 excuses. No, I won't. Sports Genius, cool video. Nice to see channel interact with the subscribers. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. It's good to get a good comment in the middle of all the battering that I'm getting. Big Band TV, great work, Alex. I almost drove off the road laughing at all those bullshit starter kit titles, and that's in the response to the Belts Gone Wild video that I did in the last podcast. Last one, giving quad for life. PBC is only option for casual fan, and then continue to support it. It's growing, and PBC keeps announcing new dates. If you're gonna hate, be objective at least, because you sound like more like a minion than educated supporter of boxing. Have I not criticized every promoter, every manager out there a million times? My most popular video on YouTube, like 80,000 views, is a couple years back, was Bob Arum, screw Bob Arum. It was called Screw You, Bob Arum. So I've been vocal about all these promoters, all these managers. It's just the lesser of evils. They're all evil. They're all a necessary evil, but they're all evil. I don't know what else to say at this point. I don't like the PBC because they aren't giving us consistently. They aren't giving us top fighters against top fighters consistently. And with the stable they have, they should be able to do that. They should be able to do that. That's all I got to say, man. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to go on a rant about PBC. It is what it is at this point. So I want to show appreciation to all the subscribers with great comments and great questions, and even the negative ones. I appreciate those too, because it's fun to respond to and it's good dialogue. So hit me up with more comments. Let me know what you think about this. That's volume 6 is a wrap. We're out. And by the way, Sergio Mora versus Danny Jacobs prediction video is coming tonight. That is coming tonight, so look out for that. I am out, man. God bless. Y'all stay good. Y'all take care of y'all's kids. Take care of your family.